You know, there's a hidden danger lurking in thousands of condo bathrooms, and it's probably not what you think. It's that fan on your ceiling. Yeah, the one making all that noise. We all just assume it's working hard. But in so many cases, it's doing next to nothing. And the silent damage it's causing, it can be absolutely shocking.
We've all been there, haven't we? You take a nice long hot shower, the fan's been humming away the whole time, but the second you open the door, you're still hit with this wall of steam. It just feels normal, right? Well, what if I told you that feeling is actually the first clue that something is silently going very wrong?
And these are the classic signs, the ones we see all the time. The mirror fogs right back up the second you wipe it. The air just feels thick and sticky. Your towels are somehow still damp the next morning. And maybe you've even seen this, that paint near the ceiling starting to bubble up. We tend to just write these off as, minor annoyances, but they're not. There's so much more than that.
And this is the big takeaway right here. Every single one of those little things is a quiet warning. It's your home literally trying to tell you that the fan, no matter how loud it gets, just isn't moving enough air. All that moisture has nowhere to go, and that's when the real trouble begins.
So it starts with what you can actually see. The paint starts to separate, maybe the paper on the drywall begins to peel back a bit. It looks cosmetic, right? Like you just need a new paint job. But the real problem? Well, that's brewing just behind the surface.
Because all that trapped moisture is the perfect breeding ground for mold, and it grows silently in the dark, behind your tiles, inside your walls, and it can potentially release spores into the very air you're breathing.
And if it's left to just fester, you are looking at some seriously expensive water damage. I'm talking rot, structural issues, a major hit to your wallet. And the crazy part is, it can all be traced back to that one little fan that just wasn't doing its job. All right, so let's do a quick check for some of the more subtle clues. Take a look at your ceiling. See any faint yellow or brownish patches? Go ahead and gently press on the drywall near the shower. Does it feel soft? Spongy? Is there a kind of musty smell you just can't seem to place? Or maybe the caulking around your tub is lifting or turning a weird color. If you're nodding along to any of these, that's a huge sign that moisture is winning the battle in your bathroom.
But why do we call this a condo conundrum? I mean, what is it about these buildings that makes them so much more vulnerable to this specific problem?
Well, it really just comes down to the path of resistance. In a typical house, the vent for your fan usually has a pretty short, direct path outside. But in a condo, oh man, that moist air has to fight its way through this maze of long, winding ducts, sometimes traveling up several floors just to escape. That journey requires a fan with some serious muscle.
And that brings us to the single most important concept we're talking about today, airflow. Think of it like the water pressure in a hose. You can have a motor making a ton of noise, but if only a tiny trickle of water is coming out the end, it's not really effective, is it? It is not about the noise. It's all about the volume of air that's actually being moved. And this right here, this is the biggest myth we need to bust. We have been conditioned our whole lives to think that loud equals powerful. But the hard truth is that a fan can be screaming its little head off while moving almost zero air. The blades are spinning, sure, but they just don't have the strength to push all that heavy, humid air out of the room.
So why is this so incredibly common? Well, it's pretty much a perfect storm of three things. First off, builders often install the cheapest, meets the minimum code fans they can find. Second, those long, complicated duct paths we talked about, they overwork these weak fans from day one. And finally, over the years, all the dust and grime and gunk literally choke the fan, strangling what little power it had left.
Okay, so that's the problem. But here's the good news. It's absolutely solvable. So let's talk about what can actually be done, both by professionals and by you.
So when the problem is serious, you really need to call in a pro. They start by actually measuring the airflow to figure out what's going on. Then they'll upgrade the fan to a model with a higher CFM. That stands for cubic feet per minute, and it tells you how much air the fan can actually move. Finally, and this is so important, they'll repair the damage that the moisture has already caused. And professionals see things that we just don't. For instance, they know that if the condensation on your mirror clears from the middle first and the edges stay foggy, that's a classic sign of poor circulation. They catch these little clues long before they have a chance to turn into a full-blown disaster.
But you don't have to wait for a disaster to strike. You can absolutely take control with just a few simple preventative steps that'll help your fan win the fight against moisture.
Here's your simple playbook.
First, let that fan run for a good 20 to 30 minutes after you get out of the shower to get rid of every last bit of moisture. Second, crack the door open just a little bit. This gives the fan the replacement air it needs to actually push the damp air out. And finally, some simple maintenance, like resealing the caulk and cleaning the fan cover so air can move freely, can make a huge, huge difference.
So, at the end of the day, the crucial point is this. That noisy, ineffective fan isn't just an inconvenience. It represents a real, silent risk to the health of your home and, frankly, to the value of your investment.
So the next time you step out of the shower and you hear that fan humming away, I want you to stop and ask yourself this one question. Is it just making noise, or is it actually making a difference?